Hello, I am Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. In today's class for the IB latest curriculum in psychology, we are going to look at how to answer a question for paper 2, section B. In this lesson, with the help of a model answer, we will understand how to read the question, how to think critically through concepts about that question, and how to write an answer within the correct word limit with good organization, good clarity, good wording, so that we can score full marks. The answer is written exactly as per top mark band requirements in the mark scheme. Towards the end of the video, I will show you the mark scheme also and explain to you how the answer meets mark scheme requirements. The intent is not to make you memorize a model answer, but to help you to write your own answers. So, we will be learning the how of answer writing in this video. To introduce myself, I am Jyotika. I'm an IB psychology tutor, tutoring the IB curriculum for both SL and HL students, helping them with their IAs and EEs beyond the core curriculum since more than 10 years now. And my students have easily been scoring their grade 7 in IB. So if you want to score your grade 7 as well, you can reach out to me. My contact number and email ID are available in the description box and pinned comment below. Previously, also, I have made several videos for the latest curriculum of IB. So you can check out my channel in the IB playlist. You will find how to answer section A in paper 1 and section B. I had made a video on that as well. Section C is the most recent video I have made. Also, overall, what is then the new curriculum, I have made a video for that as well. You can also visit my website excellingpsychology.com, in which I make written lessons and written posts for the IB curriculum. I will link it in the description box below, and I will also try to upload this answer soon on my website so that you can have a written copy of it. For the time being, till I upload it on my website, if you need this answer for reference, you can take a screenshot of the entire model answer, and you can pause the video whenever you need to take a look at the answer, because I won't be reading it out fully, because my intent is not to read it out line by line and make you memorize it. So I'll be referring to sections of it as we go through the video. Okay, let's begin with the lesson. In section B, we have an entire scenario or a detailed stem given to us. So reading skills are also very important here. Every question we have to read very carefully, as I've explained in my previous videos, but in this question, reading is particularly important. So the very first rule, as basic as it might seem, I want to tell you, don't haste. Don't haste while reading this question. Take as much time as it takes you to read the question and understand it fully. It is worth taking as much time as required. Otherwise, what will happen if you read very quickly? Later, you will end up making many mistakes while writing. You'll get confused and you'll waste too much time in this answer. If now you give enough time to read it, later you won't have to keep coming back and keep erasing your answer and rewriting. So you'll save a lot of time in answer writing. Okay, I'm reading the scenario. You can read with me. Discuss the following study with reference to two or more of the following concepts. Just keep in mind, two or more. Two or more simply means minimum you will have to take two. Now, whether you should take two or more, I will explain to you after I have read the question. Of the following concepts: bias, causality, measurement, and responsibility. There are 6 concepts in the IB curriculum. So you have come across perspectives as well, for example. You don't have to consider all 6. They have given you only 4 out of those 6 here. You have strictly to take your 2 or more from these 4. If you take something outside of these 4 concepts, let's say, for example, if you take perspective, you will not gain any marks. Okay, so if you're going to take a perspective which is not mentioned here, you will get 0 credit for that. Please keep that in mind. Okay, now we will come back to how to decide how many to take and which out of these will be the best. First, let's read the situation. To test whether self-esteem affects attraction, Kessler and Barrel conducted an experiment. They administered a fake IQ test to two groups of men and gave them fictitious scores. One group was told that they had scored the highest scores ever seen on the test. The second group was told that there must have been some misunderstanding because their scores were so low and that the test markers could not account for the errors. The second group was asked to redo the test 2 weeks later. Before proceeding, always take a chunk of the reading section, like take one paragraph in this case. Make sure you've understood it fully and then only proceed with reading. So, before going ahead in your own mind, just talk out to yourself what have you understood till here. For example, what I have understood is here the IV in this situation is self esteem. How do I know this is the IV? Because clearly the researchers are manipulating it from what I read ahead. And what is the DV? What do they think will get influenced by this attraction? Why are they manipulating self esteem? Because they believe attraction will get affected by it. They have mentioned also they've conducted an experiment. From that also we know an IV and a DV will be there. So I'm just talking out to myself and making sure I know what is the IV and DV here. Now, how have they manipulated the IV? Operationalization is very important to understand experiments. I hope you've learned your research methods well because that's very helpful here. So, how have they manipulated IV? By making some people feel a sense of high self esteem and to make others experience a sense of low self esteem. How did they make some people feel high self esteem? By giving some IQ test, which was actually fake, but making them believe that they've got the highest scores ever. So, that gives them a boost in their self esteem and makes them feel very confident about themselves. And how have they made the other group feel low self esteem? By telling them that their scores are very unusually low, such that even the markers are surprised to see this and they don't know how someone can get such low scores. So, this is how they've made them feel bad about it. And to further weaken their self esteem or their confidence in themselves, they've asked them to redo the test also. Like they've told them implicitly that your scores are so bad that you will have to redo the test. Okay, so in my own words, I've understood what is happening so far. Now, Uli, I will read further. Until I'm very sure that I've understood what is being said, I will not proceed because I won't be able to write a strong answer. So let's see further. In case you're wondering from where I have got this situation, this is released by the IB as a specimen paper. So don't think about will this type of a question come. This is an official question. Okay, let's read further. The scores were given to each participant individually, after which the participant was asked to wait in another room to receive his payment for participating in the study. During this time, an attractive woman who was part of the experiment walked into the room and sat one seat away from the participant. Okay, just one thing here. What do they mean part of the experiment? She's some sort of researcher assistant or confidant. That is what they are hinting. The researchers wanted to see if the participants' self esteem affected their willingness to engage in discussion with an attractive woman. They found that the men who received the highest test scores engaged in conversation with the women more quickly and in more detail than the men who received low test scores. Okay, now in this part, what we are seeing is after manipulation of the IV, how did they measure the DV and what did they find? So, how have they measured the DV? Again, to understand in my own words, they basically purposely made a confederate who was an attractive woman just come into the room where these participants were receiving their scores like one at a time individually. And then they wanted to just see, like naturally, they're just observing whether the participant starts engaging with the woman, whether they discuss something with her or not. And for that, they had made her sit just one seat away from the participant so that she's easily accessible. And basically, what they are doing is they are just counting how many people in each group, like how many men with the high self esteem manipulation and how many with the low self esteem manipulation speak with the women and how quickly, means how long does it take for them to speak with the women. Of course, what they are expecting is that men who are experiencing high self esteem at that time, they will quickly engage with the woman, and men who are experiencing low self esteem, they might be slower to engage with her or they might not engage with her at all. And that is exactly what the results showed. So, what they were expecting, how self esteem will affect attraction, that is what has happened. Men who were experiencing high self esteem because of their high test scores, they started talking to the woman quickly, whereas those who had received low test scores, they took time to talk to her. And in fact, men who got high scores, they spoke in more detail also. They spoke for a longer time and about many more subjects with her than the men who had low self-esteem. Okay, got it. We've understood what the situation is. We have learned about human relationships in context in the IB syllabus. This is definitely coming from the topic of attraction there. Now that I'm fully convinced that I've understood the full situation, now I will come back to what is given here, and I will start seeing how these concepts can be applied to the situation. You might feel this is taking very long to read the question because I'm explaining to you. I'm having to explain part by part. When you just do it mentally, it goes very quickly. So, barely, I feel at most it'll take you 5 minutes, trust me, to read fully and understand what is there in the situation. Now, normally, what I do with these scenario type questions, if you've seen my videos before, line by line, I make you mark. Like, say, take first sentence and mark how a concept is applying to that, and then for the next one, how it is applying. Here, I haven't done that because in this type of a question, first of all, we'll have to finalize which concepts we are taking. We might not be taking all of them. Then only we can do line by line marking. So, step one was to read the full situation like we just did and to make sure we understand. Read fully with understanding. Now, after reading this, given that we have fully understood, next step is to finalize which concepts we want to take. In the IB mark scheme, which I will show you soon, they have allowed for both approaches. So if you're wondering, is it better to take more or is it better to take less concepts? There's something called a depth approach and there's something called a breadth approach. Depth approach means you take the minimum number of concepts that they have allowed for, take two, but discuss both of them amply. Give detailed discussion of each. Breadth approaches take three or four. If you really want to be very broad and show your diverse understanding, take all four of them and then discuss each one in brief. IB has directly suggested that you can take either approach. Either works well. It's up to you. Now, coming to my personal recommendation. Strictly, in my opinion, what you should do, my preference, depth approach. I feel why I would recommend the depth approach. I'll give you two, three reasons. One, it really helps you to drive your point well. When you take a breadth approach, explanation tends to lack. And you will see, though they have equally recommended a breadth approach, they do insist on showing detailed knowledge, detailed critical thinking, contextualized critical thinking. So it's not like you can take a breadth approach just by touching upon things and leaving it. They're not allowing for that. So if you go to take a breadth approach, not only you'll have to take many of the concepts, you will have to contextualize each of them, which proves to be very difficult given a limited word count and limited time. So that is why I would say depth approach. It helps you to meet other requirements of the mark scheme, though they don't insist on it. Second, as I just mentioned in passing, word count is limited. This type of an answer given, it is 15 marks. Ideally, I would say it should be somewhere between, in my opinion, again, though there's no official word count as such yet released by the IB, 600 to 700 words. The model answer I'm going to show you is about 660 words. So, in a depth approach, you will be able to like fit in within this much word count two concepts that you're taking. For the breadth approach, each concept you'll have to restrict the word count that you're dedicated to it. Very difficult to cover the concept meaningfully in such limited word count. And if you're going to exceed the word count, if you're going to write very long answers, examiners will not check also what is exceeding the word count. You are forced to stay within a certain word count, which I think soon the IB will officially declare. So, breadth approach, in my opinion, proves to be very difficult for scoring well, given that it's very difficult to make it relevant in the limited word count and time. So, I strongly advocate a depth approach. Given that I advocate a depth approach, it becomes all the more important to finalize two of the best concepts to take here. Which are the best concepts? There is no such thing like the best concept. They have narrowed down from 6 to 4 concepts, considering which are the most relevant. They have taken those only. Now, students also ask questions like, but supposing, say, I take bias instead of causality, will that get me more marks, or should I take bias? IB will never do that. They will definitely take 4 concepts that are all equally relevant and that can all equally achieve high marks. They will never take one concept which can get very high marks, another concept which can get lesser marks. There's no point of taking that. They don't purposely want students to select a concept which can get less marks so that they can reduce. That is not on their agenda. So it doesn't matter which out of the 4 you take as your two relevant concepts. Just make sure you personally, subjectively, you are able to elaborate well on those 2 concepts. You take those two, whichever you know best, whichever you are most comfortable with. It can be different from what other candidates are taking. That is not your concern. You focus on what you can explain well. Again, given that I'm making a video, I don't know for you personally, who's watching my video, which ones you know best the concept. So I will quickly give possible points that we can discuss in each of the 4 concepts. You can focus only on those which are most suitable for you. Supposing if we take bias, let me take the first one first. And of course, not for all 4, but whichever are your 2 best concepts, do make an outline before proceeding. So I would say step 3 is make an outline after you've finalized your 2 best concepts. As such, I would advocate that you remain open to taking all concepts. Never like keep in your mind that these are my 2 best concepts overall, and no matter what question is asked, I will take these 2 only. Because firstly, the 2 which you finalize might not be there in the 4 which are mentioned in the question. Secondly, be flexible. Sometimes say your best concept is bias, for example. But what if that is not the best one to discuss in the given situation? So be open. Practice in a way that you are able to take any concept and explain well, and just given the situation which is the best one for you, you can decide. Again, it's going to take some time for me to do step 3 because I'm going through all the concepts. You can do it really quickly because you're going to take only 2 concepts. I'm going to show all 4. Now, how to make the outline? Whichever concepts you are taking, like say if you're taking bias like I'm taking right now, issue is the question, right? Discuss the following with reference to 4 of the issues. You can take strengths and weaknesses, but I would suggest you consider these as issues, meaning mainly focus on weaknesses. See, bias, for example, is an issue. There's hardly anything positive about being biased in perspective. Yes, if you feel the researchers have somehow been universal in their perspective, they've been unbiased, you can discuss that. You can take it as a strength of the concept also. But mainly when it comes to concepts and the way, especially this type of a situation is given, it tilts towards issues, it tilts towards weaknesses of the concept. Keep an evaluation critical thinking perspective in mind. In my previous video, if you haven't seen it, section C, paper 1, I have explained what is a critical thinking perspective. Keep that same perspective here. Do not generally describe what is happening in the situation. This was the IV, this was the DV. You're not going to get any marks for such things. Directly come to the concept, say bias. Start explaining how bias applies here. Don't try to beat around the bush and keep on explaining what Kessler and Beryl did in their experiment. You're going to get 0 for that. For restating what is the question in different words, there are no marks at all. Okay, so what can we give under bias? If you see this situation, definitely there's a gender bias issue. Right, later I will explain to you how you can be contextualized and how you should not be narrow when you're writing this, like just focusing on male participants were there. It's beyond that. Gender bias runs deeper than that in this scenario. As of now, because we're making an outline, we're just noting. How do I know gender bias is there? Yes, because they're only male participants. And moreover, the DV, which is attraction, the way it has been operationalized is just willingness to engage with a female, with an attractive female. So, taking an attractive female as a measure of attraction, that is definitely gender biased. I also see in this another bias. which is very prominently their culture bias. Because willingness to talk with an attractive female, like that freeness in talking to the opposite gender and taking that as a measure of attraction, very Western concept. So it's very prominent. So, how are these points coming to my mind about bias? From three sources. One, I have read the situation with full understanding, so it's very obvious when I read it. Because I understood it fully, I could clearly see the biases. Two, I have learned the topic of attraction and the human relationships. So, in that, I have seen a lot of researches in which male female biases have been spoken about, and how researchers tend to typically do these experiments where males' attraction towards good looking females are studied. So, from there, also, I'm easily able to pick up the idea of bias. And three, I've learned the concept of bias in general very thoroughly in my curriculum. So, from there, also, I know what sorts of biases can exist: gender, culture, researcher, participant biases. So, out of that, also, if I just run through that list in my mind, which biases are there, here very clearly I can see gender and culture bias. This requires some amount of inductive thinking. So many times students ask, from where do I get my ideas of what biases might be there here? Of course, you have to have a full understanding of the curriculum over your 2 years, then only you're able to see these things. So that's why I've explained to you from where you get your ideas of what is applying here. Okay, let's come to the next concept, causality. Causality means cause effect relationship. And what do we consider under that? If you've learned your concept of causality well, we have to consider, can we establish a firm cause behind the effect or not? In this case, the IV is self esteem, which is the cause, and attraction is the effect because it is the DV. Can I say, after looking at the results and everything, that it is because of self esteem only that people have expressed attraction towards the female? There are doubts on this because extraneous variables, confounding variables are coming to my mind. It does appear that there can be other possibilities that have led to attraction towards the female. So it might not solely depend on self esteem, it can also depend on other things like the self esteem, say, people are carrying over from before the experiment, not from the manipulation done in this experiment. Or it can also be something to do with as simple as their mood. Do they feel talkative at that time, or are they in a rush to go somewhere? And the passage doesn't really describe whether any of these extraneous variables have been controlled or kept in check in any way. Again, how do I know that these are the things I should consider in causality? One, because I've learned causality very well. Two, because I have learned about attraction topic, and when I was learning about that, so many studies in their evaluation, I saw how cause effect is always a problem, how extraneous variables can always confound results. And three, because I've done my research methods of experiment so well, I know that whenever cause effect comes, of course, experiment is the best method. And we can take that as a positive also here of causality, that there is manipulation of the IV. But then I also know from my understanding of research methods that confounding variables always exist. So I should always think about them when it comes to causality. Next, third issue is measurement. Again, whatever is then causality in depth, I will show you in the model answer. Right now, I'm just brainstorming. Measurement. Measurement is related to operationalization and what sort of measures used. Like, is it physiological? Is it observational? Is it self-report? And then every method has its pros and cons. In this scenario, if I see the measurement of attraction, firstly, if I consider its construct validity, right, that is the first thing which comes to mind in measurement. Can we define attraction as narrowly as willing to talk to an attractive female? Of course not. So that is a big issue coming to mind. Secondly, observation of how the participants are talking to the attractive female. Is that the best measure? Like, is it guaranteed to show us whether they are feeling attraction and whether that self esteem has impacted them, that manipulation has impacted them? Again, I would say very narrow way of looking at it, like only an outward behavior to observe whether a woman is attracted, a man is attracted to a woman, like just looking at his behavior to see whether he's attracted, seems to be very narrowly operationalized. Also, the question of manipulation check, This can in fact be taken under causality also. I feel to some extent causality and measurement overlap. Okay, the researchers did try to increase self-esteem or decrease it through that feedback which they give to the participants about their test. But did that really increase or decrease their self-esteem? Like, did they try to check in any way? There is no mention of that in the scenario. So how are we sure whether they really experienced high or low self-esteem based on the test scores? That is also very questionable. So measurement seems to have too many flaws. If I am to think of some positives of measurement here, it's good that they haven't used any self report, for example, like just asking participants whether they're feeling attracted. That would be a big issue because too much social desirability would come in willingness to, express attraction towards the opposite sex. So that's a plus of measurement. They've tried to be a little unbiased, but overall, I feel measurement is quite a big issue in this study. Finally, responsibility. Responsibility, comes from ethics. Now, can I see any ethical concerns here? Very, very obvious ethical concern is then in terms of self esteem. Manipulating someone's self esteem and making them especially feel that low self esteem is a direct attack on protection from harm, which is a very important ethical guideline. Making someone experience low self esteem, like making them feel bad about themselves just for the sake of the experiment, is definitely questionable. It counts under causing psychological harm. Secondly, making someone sit next to an attractive woman, to some extent, even that might be discomforting for people, like say, who are not comfortable sitting with the opposite sex. Although I wouldn't take it as a very big issue because the woman was not doing anything as such that is provocative in any way, but still, some amount of discomfort could come from there. And of course, deception is very strong. Purposely telling them that their scores are proving that they are like good in that what is that IQ, or they are bad in it. It's a very misleading feedback that is given to them. In terms of positives of ethics, again, I can't think of much here. uh, we don't know even if some debriefing at all is done or not. We can assume, but then I would say avoid assumptions based points, take concrete points which can really apply to the situation, like which we can give evidence for directly. Otherwise, then we can discuss anything if we go to take hypotheticals. So in my opinion, responsibility is an issue here. I don't see much of a positive. Now, given that four issues are possible and I advocate for a depth approach, which are the two that I'm finding the best after considering these? You can also take this method, like I told you, if two concepts are very good with you directly, you can finalize them, or else, like me, you can brainstorm through all. If you're flexible, and then you can decide which are the best ones. So in my opinion, I would like to take bias for this one because I feel there's a lot to discuss in terms of gender and culture bias. How am I deciding this? Not only like broadly, oh, I've identified gender and culture bias, that's why I'm taking it, because I know I'm naming it relevantly. I'm not just taking it because I can identify or name. It's a full discuss question. Will I be able to give solid evidence and in a very contextualized explain for this particular study for Kessler and Barrel? What are the issues with bias? Yes, I have a lot to speak about it. Like, for example, attraction towards a female by a man. Males are participants are then the manipulation is the female coming in to talk. Very strongly tilted towards heterosexuality, like as if attraction is the domain only of heterosexuals, not of homosexuals. What if some of the men had homosexual preferences and they would have shown attraction towards a man rather than a woman? That is something that is not being considered while operationalizing attraction in this study. So, this is just one example, but can you see my thought process here? Will I be able to give very relevant points to what is in the situation? Yes, I'm very confident about that. That is why I'm willing to take bias for this scenario. Not just because I can see that there's a gender bias, I have a lot to elaborate on for that. Same way I have for culture bias also, as I will show you in the model answer. Besides that, again, my opinion strictly, I feel measurement is a good one for this because, like I given the example of manipulation check, that time only I had elaborated on it. I feel that is something I will be able to write about elaborately. It's as if, in my mind, I have the answer already. I can clearly see the points that I will be making, and then only I will begin to write. I will not make that mistake of starting writing, then realizing I'm at a loss of having enough points to discuss, and then keep canceling out and trying another concept. I don't want to get into that. And of course, practice goes a long way. I keep on practicing such questions. Beautiful questions are there in the official Oxford textbook also, and with time, more will keep releasing. So I will keep on practicing till I become very confident about my writing style, and that will help me to answer well. So I don't write down anything till in my mind I have a full relevant elaboration that I can give for the issues. So this is how we read the question. This is how we finalize on the concepts. Only when our step 3 is done, mentally the outline is ready for an elaborate, contextualized discussion that we can do, then only we begin answering. Now, before we write anything in the answer at all, what are some considerations we need to make? Something I've told you about the word count already, though this is not official, so I can't say with too much confidence. But most probably, it will be required that you put in the range of 600 to 700 words. Why am I saying this? Because this is a 15 marks answer. Across boards of psychology for 15, 16 marks type, in fact, we don't sometimes go above 500 words also. So, this is standard, pretty standard, that for 15 marks you should write this much. Secondly, if we look at the most recent curriculum which has just passed, for 22 marks there was a requirement of say 800 to 1200 words. So this is definitely going to be lesser than that. That's why I'm estimating this much. Though I might have overstated here, it might go a little lower. So I just want to give the caution. So first we'll keep in mind we have to cover 600 to 700 words. Now, many times students tell me, but still, how to target that? Like while writing, how do we make sure we come in this range? What is 600 to 700 words? Think in terms of sentences. That makes it easy. One sentence is roughly 10 to 15 words. So you can think of it as you should write, say, roughly I'm saying 45 to 60 sentences maybe. And then you'll definitely break down into paragraphs. Some paragraphs will be shorter, like the introduction one, 5, 6 sentences. Some will be 10 sentences. So think about maybe 4, 5 paragraphs. Depends on your writing style. These are rough guidelines. I'm just giving you to give you some structure, some framework so that you can write. So you can think along those lines according to your writing style. Okay, so this is one consideration. Second, when we are taking two or more concepts, in our case, we are taking two. I know this is very obvious, but still, please take separate paragraphs when you're writing. Like I'm taking bias, so first I'll do a discussion of bias, then I will do of measurement. Don't mix up the two while writing, it becomes very difficult to read. So, whichever you're stronger, maybe you can start with that. There's no rule like because here first they've mentioned bias, you have to take bias only first and then measurement. You can go anyway. They have not told you to follow any particular order. But there is a requirement that you do associate the concepts also ultimately. So you're going to have a merger paragraph also. First, individually, you will discuss bias, then, individually, you will discuss measurement, and then you can reconcile the two towards the end. I will show you all that in the model answer, but just keep it in mind before starting. Give some introduction in the beginning. Do talk about what is exactly happening in this experiment just to open well, because essay should be opened well. And write only as much as is relevant to your discussion, which will prove useful for bias and measurement, for example. Like I told you, general descriptions are not credit worthy. So, just for the sake of opening, you mention something. This is the topic of the research that will quickly progress towards the concepts. Then discuss one concept at a time, then reconcile them and give a good relevant conclusion. Even conclusion is a requirement in the mark scheme. I will show you balanced like conclusion should be there. So this is like your rough structure framework in your mind before you start writing. Now, with the help of the model answer, I will show you how all this is incorporated, and I will give you fine tips also on how to write. So let's see the beginning first. Experiment, the name of the researchers, what were they studying, all that is just stated. It's a kind of restatement of what is given, but just so that the answer can flow after this. So, in the introduction, first of all, okay, we have shown, we understood what this is about in one line. No time waste, no word count waste. After that, what are we going to discuss? See, they've given 4 concepts out of which you are choosing how many you want to take and which ones you want to take. So, every student is going to take different issues, different number of issues. make it clear for the examiner. When you're writing, your perspective should always be of the examiner. If you were the examiner, wouldn't you want to know right at the start that this particular essay, this candidate, what have they written about? Or do you want to first read the whole essay and then try to figure out what they've written about? Right? So, first, only you name that. Particularly bias and measurement seem to be very relevant here, so we'll be doing a critical thinking of that in this essay. So mention in the introduction which are the concepts that you're taking up, and we also make it clear that we are taking it mostly from a weakness point of view, how these issues are making it difficult to validate the study and to keep it generalizable. So we are going to show that we are telling the examiner, and then of course with the points we'll actually show that. So this is one paragraph intro. Very brief, you can see only 3 sentences. What is the work done in the intro? Just show that you understood what the study is about in a line. Name the concepts you're going to take up and what are you going to do with the help of these concepts. What strength or limitation of the study you're going to bring about, just specify that. Just a reminder, if you need to read the full model answer, pause the video and read it. I will not be able to read every word. I don't have that much time in this video. Next paragraph becomes about the first issue that we have taken up. Now, very carefully, if you need pause, read, I want you to see generic answers are the worst answers. So, this is not generic at all. Bias is there, gender culture bias. This is gender bias in general. Taking only one gender of participants is called gender bias. Gender bias means we're not trying to understand the other gender. Freud did some studies which were gender biased. uh, Biological psychology has also been gender biased in terms of fight or flight. No such irrelevant discussion which has nothing to do with Kessler and Barrel study. No general understanding you're trying to show that I know what is gender bias. That is not going to get you any credit. How is gender bias being seen here in this study? Immediately you come down to that. So in this study, only male participants were there, and social attraction was defined only as their preference towards a female confederate. That means sexual preference has been narrowed down only to heterosexual men, and attraction, which is a very large construct as such, a very broad concept, has been narrowed down to something as simple as a man's attraction towards a woman, which is strictly only one type of attraction possible, a heterosexual man towards the opposite sex. Other sexual orientations have not been concerned. So, this is how gender bias is seen here. Highly contextualized writing, highly relevant writing is needed for these answers. Also, in terms of culture bias, again, generally I know what is culture bias, what's the difference between Western and non Western cultures? No. How is Western culture bias being seen in this study? Because in the Western cultures there is some freeness in talking to the opposite sex, so there will be extroversion, assertiveness in talking. But in non-Western cultures we might not observe this ease with talking with the other gender. Wanting, like, initiating a conversation to be able to see attraction is very West orientation of the researchers. You can use the imposed ethic term here if you want. They're imposing the ethic, although imposed ethic is not very relevant here because they are not studying non-Western people. But like, the point I'm trying to make is they're assuming what is right in the West will be applicable everywhere, because they have not noted anywhere, or they have not specified anywhere that, what we are doing is restricted only to the Western culture. It seems they're assuming that if they find in this study that self-esteem impacts attraction, that would universally be the case. Given their narrow definition that it's about initiating conversation with a female. So that we need to bring about here. So again, you can pause, read how even this point is highly contextualized and relevant to what is being done in this study. So here I have discussed bias, only bias to begin with. Next is measurement. So now I come to the next issue, same approach in writing about this one. In general, what is measurement? No. Here, what is the measurement issue? I'm talking about that. manipulation check. In general, what is manipulation check or why it is important? No. Directly applying it to the study, and here why there should have been a manipulation check. The researchers believe that self esteem is being increased or decreased by their false feedback on that fake IQ test. But they didn't try to see whether really it resulted in high or low self esteem or not. They could have done something very simple, just given a test of self esteem to the participants after measuring their pre-existing level, like after having a baseline. Then they could have compared with their baseline scores and seen, has it increased after their manipulation, has it remained constant, or in fact has it gone down. But there is no such attempt. So how can we be confident that even if the high self-esteem people show an attraction towards female and they initiate conversation with her, it is because of some self-esteem that they've experienced in this study because of researchers manipulation? We cannot be sure of that because of the absence of manipulation check. So this is how we discuss measurement. I told you other measurement issues are also possible. Like you can talk about how observation might be an issue because we can't read what is on their mind. In their behaviors, they might not show attraction, they might not initiate conversation, but in their mind, they might be feeling very attracted towards the female. You can talk about those issues also, but see, when it comes to bias, I'm sure you can think of other biases also here, like it's observation again, so researcher bias can also come in. When it comes to measurement, you can think of other measurement issues, but we can't talk within a concept also about everything that is applicable. So whatever in your judgment is most relevant and whatever you will be able to discuss at length, you take that in your essay, leave aside other things. Like I told you, depth approach means not only finalizing on one two concepts and just talking about them. It also means that within that concept you narrow down to something highly relevant to the given structure, given scenario, and you stick to that. You don't try to discuss everything under the sun, basically. Okay, so your measurement has been discussed in this paragraph. Okay, here dependent variable measurement issue is also given. Here, more than observation, willingness to engage by timing how quickly the participant engages. Here, what I have taken as a measurement issue is the speed of engagement, of initiating a conversation. Again, that becomes a very narrow issue. Like if you are talking about speed of engagement or detail, how much they engage, that again becomes a very narrow way of looking at attraction. It might be someone's taking more time to open up. They are feeling high self esteem. They want to initiate conversation with the woman, but it is that it's taking them some time. Maybe they are gauging how her mood is. Maybe they are seeing a little whether she'll be willing to talk, and then they are approaching her. Or maybe they are seeking to complete something in the experimental environment before approaching her. They are thinking maybe we'll go outside and talk to her. So just looking at how fast they start talking to her, that might be a very narrowed way of looking at attraction, even if we are looking at it in terms of only how much they talk to a woman. That issue I have brought about here because again I feel that uh, is like the thing I can talk about best. It also inherently talks about confounding variables that I was telling you before. Here you have specific examples. Someone might have high self-esteem, but say out of sheer politeness they feel that the woman might get awkward if they try to talk to her like that suddenly, like a man starting to talk to a woman. Not every woman is comfortable with by a stranger man approaching her. So out of that sheer politeness they might be quiet and not initiating the conversation, or they might be giving her a chance to warm up to them, become comfortable with their presence, and then they will talk to her. So it might be just consideration. Conversely, if they're talking to a woman, attraction is not the only reason why they might be talking to her. Maybe they would have spoken to an unattractive, so called unattractive woman in her place, or they might have even spoken to a man in her place. Not because of attraction, because they are curious to know which other people are there, or they're just sociable and they like to talk to others there. Basically, the point being made here is that the researcher's assumption is too broad that how quickly someone talks to a person indicates attraction. There can be many other reasons for why they're talking to someone else. And if they're not talking to that person, there can be many reasons for that also, which go beyond self esteem and attraction, which is the very definition of a confounding variable. And that is a measurement issue which we have brought about here. Now, one more thing I want you to see. You might feel that there's much more discussion about measurement rather than bias, just because the word count is a little more for measurement than bias. But I have tried to keep equal weightage Because if you see in bias also, I've taken up two issues, gender and culture. And in measurement, I have taken up two issues, manipulation check and narrowness of defining attraction in terms of only speed and detail of speaking to the woman. So actually, it is balance more than word count. How much word count you're dedicating to each concept that you've taken. What indicates that you're doing a balanced discussion is that you take up an equal number of issues within each. Is it like rigid that you have to only take, like, say, two issues under measurement and two issues under bias? Like I always say, don't get lost in superficialities. All the time, think about number of points, word count. Think deeper. So, no, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to only talk equally about each. If you feel one is more applicable than the other, do that. You feel measurement, you have more to say than you have to say for bias, do that. Just make sure for each at least one relevant discussion is there. That's why you're taking it. Don't just touch upon one of them. So none of them should be generic or just touched upon. There should be fair amount of discussion in each. One can have more discussion than the other. I just feel it's a convenient way or a relevant way of bringing about balance in discussion if you can give equal number of points within each. But that is my preference. There's no rule for it. Now coming to, like I told you, you need to reconcile also. You need to show an interaction. So bias and measurement, as we have seen in this situation, not only they exist together in this problem, they compound each other, they make each other worse. So now I'm going to explain how, again linking to this particular situation. There is a circular problem. If you go to see in this particular scenario, the researchers' design has decided what behavior they are measuring. Their design is only gender biased. Their design is only that males attraction towards females, we are going to see that is their plan. That has resulted in their measurement of how long it is taking to initiate conversation. We are going to look that at that only. So their inherent bias has led to the measurement issue that is there. And then because they are doing a very limited measurement, the results that they are bringing about are biased because they are looking at measurement only in terms of attraction towards the woman. The end result is highly biased. It talks only about heterosexual preferences, that also as seen in a limited way. So this is a circular problem which they cannot get out of. Their plan is only flawed in a way that both bias and measurement are feeding on each other. That is what is explained here. Important is whatever issues are there, they have been reconciled. Again, you can pause, read about this. Finally, there should be a good conclusion. What we mean by a good conclusion is a relevant summary which can just bring about to the examiner what all was discussed. It can give them a quick review of what went through this whole essay and a quick like line at the end of either a suggestion like what future research can do to avoid these sort of issues, or just what is the larger message coming out of research done in this area when looked at from these concepts, something like that. So first, in terms of summary, the attempt to establish a causal link has become problematic. Because why causal link? Because it was an experiment, so we're emphasizing on that. That has become a problem because first of all, biases have given it a very narrow context, and measurement has resulted in very subjective, low validity type of results because the dependent variable is not credible the way it's come about, and because of absence of manipulation check, we're not even sure why the dependent variable is showing a result which it is. So are these the points we gave throughout? Yes, that only we have summarized. Nothing new should be introduced in the conclusion. It's just a quick glance of, okay, these are the issues that we saw with the research. Now, the larger message which comes out of it is designing should be careful. Researchers should not get into their own circular trap like we saw while making a study design. At the beginning, they should have some broad construct in mind with a broad measurement so that they are not narrowly defined, so that they are not biased, and ultimately the measurement doesn't feed on that bias basically. So they should be careful in designing. They should have clear experimental narratives like broad based, and they should have rigorous unbiased measurement so that with more credibility and confidence they can establish, like in this case, Casely and Barrel, what they were trying to establish, that self-esteem can influence attraction, high self-esteem will result in greater attraction. We are not very convinced of that at the end because we are not able to see how initiating conversations is significant of attraction. Had they taken a broader perspective, defined it in a more diverse way or a more comprehensive way, then we would have been confident that yes, self esteem has a bearing on attraction. So, if researchers want to give such confident findings, they will have to reconsider their experimental designs and make them as unbiased as possible. So, this is what we can suggest for the future. Now, I'm sure you feel this sounds like a good model answer, but will it score? Can it get 15 on 15? That I will show you with the help of the mark scheme, how this can get 15 on 15. This is the official mark scheme for paper 2, section B, released by IB, and it applies to both HL and SL. Right? If you want to write the same answer, then you should be marked in the same way. Ignore everything above 13 and 15. We want to score 15. We don't want to score anything less than that. So, why should we look at those criteria? Now, I will explain to you how the answer which we just saw meets all these requirements. The first requirement is very good understanding should be there of what? Of the specific concepts, whichever are chosen by the candidate. When we spoke about bias just now in the model answer, did you feel that it was good understanding? You must have felt that way because gender culture bias were very relevant also to what was given. It was not something unrelated that we were talking about, and very good understanding because fully applied to the situation, not a generic understanding. In this situation, exactly how gender and culture biases that was defined. Same for measurement. Did you feel very good understanding was there? Yes, because how manipulation check issues and narrow defining of dependent variable were there, they were applied. See, you're able to apply to a situation only if you understand it well. If you've not understood, then you just out of rote learning, you just keep writing. Generally, what is bias and measurement? That was not the case in this model answer. It was highly contextualized and applied. That is evidence that there's very good understanding. So even they say in relation to the study. So does it qualify for this high mark band? Yes. Another requirement, critical engagement. Was it critical? Did we just say, oh, bias is there, measurement issues are there? We related it to how these biases are bringing down validity, how they're bringing down generalizability. For example, how culture bias is making it difficult for us to understand the relation between self esteem and attraction in non Western cultures. When we spoke about measurement, we showed how it is reducing validity because so and so confounding variables can be there. For example, consideration of the participants or hesitation in being assertive towards the female. These sort of confounding variables could have obscured the relation between self esteem and attraction. That brings down validity. We don't have confidence because of that. Was that indicated? Yes. So, were the issues just named like, see, here there is bias, here there is validity issue? No. Because of that bias, because of that measurement issue, how generalizability and validity were getting affected, that was explained. So, critical thinking was shown again in a contextualized way. Next requirement is well developed critical analysis. Well developed. Was it well developed? Yes, because it was firstly building on the other. Like in the reconciliation paragraph, we saw how bias and measurement are connected, that was shown, and even within every point, within bias and measurement, every point was well developed. For example, if heterosexual orientation has been spoken about, has it just been named and left over there? No, because we are looking only at heterosexual orientation, we are not understanding what attraction would look like in homosexual orientation. If homosexuals were the participants, they might have not shown the same attraction like these individuals did. So, in that sense, it has been well developed with relevant examples by linking to real issues which are coming about because of these narrow definitions and these biases. That is called well developed thinking. Poorly developed thinking is just identifying, oh, this is only applicable to heterosexuals. So what? That so what part defines development. Continuous links were then the model answer between the concept and the source material. There was no concept given without linkage to the source material. Every point was talking about self esteem, attraction, initiating conversation with the woman, fake IQ test. Means every point was related to what was being done in the study. Nothing was outside of what was being done in the study. So relevance was there. And a clearly stated conclusion, reasoned conclusion was there. Like I told you, not only a summary, not only a mere restatement of what was given above, but okay, given that the summary is there, given that this was what this answer was about, this is the larger issue coming out of researches like this, or this is the larger caution for upcoming researchers on how they should do their study. Reasoning is the well reasoned conclusion. From whatever has been seen in the answer, using our reasoning, this is what we have realized about researches done which are similar to this, and this is what we recommend. That is put in the conclusion. Was there good terminology? Yes. Okay. Terms like gender bias, culture bias, they were not given in this scenario. Term like manipulation check was not given in this scenario. We introduced those concepts. So we did not just say, like, for example, for manipulation checks, the researchers did not measure whether participants felt high self esteem or not. We used a term for it. This is called manipulation check. So such terms were used throughout. In many places, you will find terms were used. And even for this bias, like I told you, culture bias, in that something like heterosexual preference has been mentioned, homosexual orientation has been mentioned. So good terms which not only we have learned under the concept, but also under the larger context of human relationships, which is from where the scenarios come in. Those type of terms were also used. No casual conversational language, only such language which a psychology student would show. That was used in the essay. Were the points relevant, accurate, and detailed? I think I don't need to re emphasize on that. I have told you many times how every point was relevant to the scenario and every point was well developed. There were specific and effective references to the study. Not only the study was referred to in a very relevant way. Like if we are talking about bias, what is relevant to the bias from the whole situation given? The fact that only heterosexual men and their preferences are included. In measurement, when we are talking about the DVs narrowly defined, what was relevant to that? That only speed and detail were being observed. So not like trying to randomly take any part of the study and applying to any concept, or not trying to apply the whole study to every concept. Specific relevant parts of the study taken and applied to specific relevant concepts. That was what was done. So this is how we write a good 15-mark scoring full answer for section B on paper 2. I'm loving the new IB syllabus. I mean, the previous one was also beautiful, but it was so much lacking in terms of exactly what is here. Like thinking about specific critical points, like specific concepts for critical thinking, like that was just not there. So then we tend to become comfortable, like, oh, I like these critical thinking points, always take this across topics. Here they force you to think about all critical points, because you never know, these might not be the four concepts which come up, some other combination of concepts might come up. So you have to be ready for all sorts of critical thinking. That's a beautiful way of forcing students to develop their critical thinking beyond the usual. And this thing, like a completely unseen scenario coming up, and that used to be the last time also, but in a very limited way, like looking at it only in terms of research methods, not so much in terms of critical thinking. So that's another beautiful addition in this syllabus. And of course, in the next one, which I hope to cover soon, paper 3, the data analysis critical thinking is another beautiful addition to look forward to. So we are so blessed to have the new IB curriculum. Yes, there are practical difficulties whenever any new curriculum comes up. I'm seeing a lot of criticism around that, which is justified. I understand. Even I'm having some difficulties in adjusting to the new syllabus, but inherent beauty which is there in the syllabus, the type of thinking they are trying to develop and all, that is something else. Like that is what a psychology student should have to prepare for the university, and I must really appreciate the IB for this. Anyways, what have you felt about this video? Is there anything more you want to see? Do you have any queries about this? You can leave all these things in the comments box below. Please do not contact me personally for any feedback or questions about the video. I won't be able to answer in person for these things, but you can let me know in the comments box below. I read the comments, I reply to them. You can see And hopefully I will be back very soon with the paper 3 data analysis, my favorite type of questions, in the next video. And till then, keep working on your unseen passages section B. Very interesting. If you take it in the right spirit, you will enjoy doing this. Okay, so see you very soon. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.